Is it worth keeping a property with a 2.25 interest rate? I need to relocate, but I bought a property at the end of 2020 with such a good interest rate that now I feel stuck. Any suggestions? Shakes Real Estate 8 Ball. It depends. A ton of people are in your position today. Want to move but will get rid of an insanely valuable mortgage to do it. If you can afford to keep it and move into or buy your next place, it may make sense to keep it as a rental. Yes, inflation is still at like 5. If inflation APR, your loan itself is an asset. In other words, you are paying high value $2020 with shitty lower value 2023 money. Do the math. But generally, if you had a decent down payment, that will have the potential to cash flow and have raising rents over time. I would be inclined to run the numbers but keep it as a rental. Will you cash flow based on local rents for a like property after 10 for repairs, 10 for capex, 5 for vacancy, and any WA, insurance, taxes and mortgage? If you don't want to manage, add another 10. Rent the house out and move to where you want. Cash out the equity if any. Do a subject to mortgage and let someone take over the monthly payment and let them give you cash in hand. Multiple things you can do. Gives us the numbers if you want real answers. So far we 2.25. This number is meaningless by itself. We need monthly payment, mortgage, tax, insurance, and we need estimated monthly rent. Once we have these two numbers, we could give you advice. Just because the rate is low doesn't mean this was a good purchase to rent out. The rate dictates part of your payment. The purchase price dictates the other. If you paid too much with a low interest rate, then this might be a bad property to keep. Keep it if it cash flows. All there is to it. Sell it owner financed and arb some rate difference. Keep the mortgage and seller finance like a subject to deal. Make a little arbitrage on the rate. Get a down payment from buyer for your new purchase, or personally I would rent for at least the next 12 months depending on where you are going. Market a bit frothy. I am going ride this if you guys don't mind. I have same question. I am relocating out of state and need to decide whether to sell or keep my house. My mortgage payment is $1,500 and I can rent the house for around $2,700. If I sell, I expect to clear about $350,000 after paying off the loan and fees. I bought the house for $305,000 and I have 9 years left on my 15-year mortgage at 3.75 interest. How much incremental cash flow will you gain or lose versus staying put? It's a good idea if your salary goes up by $50,000 and you only lose $7,500 in incremental interest expense. It's a bad idea if your salary goes up by $7,500 and you lose $8,000 on incremental interest costs. Judge everything relative to the cash flows of your base case status quo. Your first question needs to be, do you want to be a long-distance landlord and deal with the associated problems? Next, will it cash flow when you do the math? Additionally, what's your exit strategy? 5 years? 10 years? Finally, is that 2.25 mortgage assumable? If you exit now, how will you invest the proceeds and what's that return look like compared to your SFH? I got a mortgage under 3 and I am not selling. If you want to sell, you could always consider doing seller financing at like 6. This way you get the cash today and make a bit of money off of the low interest rate. Rent it out and pull equity to help with new down payment. You will build equity, gain appreciation, and rents will go up over the years for increased cash flow. Yes. I wouldn't discontinue financing for 2.25 for almost no reason. Keep it. You'll never get it back, and the rest of your life you'll regret letting it go. Yes. Keep forever. Become a landlord. Be competent about it and profit. Do whatever gives you a good night's sleep. I am not good at economics. If you can afford to keep the property without living house poor in the new place, keep it. If you have to stretch budget to your limits, then dump it. You need to be able to enjoy your life without worrying about a brick and mortar property. Find estimates about expected rentals. Too many times new landlords expect more rental, and positive cash flow does not mean they will get it. So don't build imaginary castles in thin air. Don't be fixated with 2.25 if you can't afford the monthly payments in addition to your expenses. Where you are moving. Yes. Rent it out. What is your cash flow renting it out? Rent it out. It's not worth keeping things you don't need, like a house in a location you no longer reside. You could sell your house for more because of that rate. I just sold my house $2.580K for $150,000. You likely could get a better deal on said property with this rate than market rate. It's all math. If you're making good money, why stop? I had a 3 interest rate mortgage and had to relocate for work. Rented out my place and moved out of state. Currently renting it for $3,025 with a $2,200 mortgage, $2,300 including WA. It's only been a couple months now, but seems to be working out. We were originally planning on using a property manager, but that would have killed any time of income and we would have broke even on mortgage, WA and expenses. Currently self-managing and it's been okay so far. How far are you relocating? If you're close by you can manage yourself, otherwise you may need to get a property manager or, as mentioned somewhere, perhaps a family member or friend can help you manage the property. I'm not going to bother reading any comments here because, let's be frank, they are all going to say the same old blah 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 2.25. Instead, my advice, and I would tell this to anyone: what is this property? It is a rental. Is it a vacational? Is it an inherited home? Is this property in desired neighborhood? Is it something you want in your portfolio? Can you handle the responsibilities, the taxes, the maintenance, the tenants in said property? Are you near retirement? Do you have any OFCAN? Do you have any desire to keep this property at all? Or would you rather have whatever the market decides, the cash now and be done? A lot of folks have given you good advice about the rent versus sell option. One thing you should consider is if you have either a military or an FHA loan, your mortgage could be assignable, which could drive up the sale price of your home. My friend just did a deal where they got well over market by having the seller assign the take a current rate mortgage for the remainder of the market value. And they paid cash on top. The blended rate ended up being 2.5 points lower than they could get anywhere else, so while they paid more, their monthly payment is much lower. Yes, YX. I would keep the home, maybe rent it out. Is it FHA? We will never see interest rates that low again in our lifetime. Don't sell it. Rent it out. Take a HELOC out on that property to purchase your next one. Rent it out. Not for the faint of heart. But would you consider rent-to-own owner financing? You may have better luck than just renting since they hope to own it. Yes, that's free money. I'm in the same situation. Bought end of 2021 with a 2.375 interest rate. Used VA loan, so put very little down, so I don't have a ton of equity. My mortgage including taxes and insurance is just short of $2,000. I can safely rent for at least $2,750. I am moving overseas in less than a year for the foreseeable future. House is worth about $100,000 more now. But I also put a lot into it. Any thoughts?